Hey everybody, Karen from Ask the Spirit Guides. Click! Look out this cute mug that I got. Somebody from the community sent this to me. Thank you so much. So cute, right? Anybody want to have coffee with me today? Click. Somebody said, and I said this in a previous video, that when I say click, that is clearing our energy. Poof! A high vibration. Okay, so today's going to be a little different. I don't have any spiritual messages, but we are going to talk about spirituality. I don't have any spiritual messages from the Lead Team Collective today, okay? Because there's been something, like I went down a rabbit hole this weekend, and there's something that I just want to discuss as a community, okay? And again, I'm just going to facilitate this community, and I want to see what you guys think. All right. So it's very interesting. I got to see how I'm going to piece this together. So as you know, sometimes I go here and there, and then I somehow bring it all together most of the time. Okay. So I did go down this rabbit hole this weekend of watching survivors of the trafficking situation related to Epstein. Okay. And I actually had not listened to any survivor stories until this weekend. Now, trust me, I will bring this to a spiritual place. Okay. This is why I feel like I have to talk about this. Because as I'm going to put in the title, this is way bigger than Epstein. Okay. So, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is because, we did those 3 sessions with the SGs with Epstein, right? About Epstein. But what we didn't do, because I wasn't aware at that time, because I hadn't been listening to anything, we were basically just talking about the details, right? Of those sessions. But what we weren't talking about was the survivors. Okay. And now that I've listened to some of the survivors, I am and their stories, one being Epstein's niece, I will go ahead and link the videos below that I watched this weekend. Viewers' discretion is advised, okay? Now, when I first started watching the first video that I will put in the description, I was like, both my husband and I were like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to know all this, But as she went on and I continued to listen, I'm really glad that I did, because we as a society need to, I'm going to use the words, wake up to what is really going on, okay? And after listening to 3 or 4 survivor videos this weekend, it sounds like we the people, I am no longer going to be talking about left and right. I mean, I'll talk about shit that's going on in government, but not left and right. I think we the people need to all come together to make this shit stop. The only way it's going to stop is for more and more of us to know it's happening. Okay. And I am going to give people on the right who followed Trump a lot of credit. I'm not giving Trump credit. There's a difference. I am going to give people on the right a lot of credit because I think they have known more about these stories way before I have. So I'm not going to say you guys, because me. So other people on the left, I have no idea. I'm just saying for me. Okay. So how to decipher the conspiracy theories versus the conspiracy is important to do, but we're not going to be able to decipher it until we start talking about it. Okay. And the stories that I listened to seemed extremely credible. I don't know. I don't know 100%. I don't know these people, right? But I am going to get one that was Cathy O'Brien. I don't know if anybody's heard her talk. But actually, what I want to do is tell you how interesting in these conversations, two of the videos that I listened to, how interesting that one was the interviewer who used this language that we use in this community, and the other one was Cathy O'Brien, who was a victim of what I can feel a little stupid that I'm just learning about this now because I think this seems pretty prevalent, is the MK Ultra mind control drug and just mind control that apparently, allegedly, a lot of people in entertainment, in all sorts of entertainment, including country music to Hollywood to starting with not starting, but with Walt Disney and the whole kids, all the kids that were involved with Walt Disney programming. Again, allegedly, but there's a lot of information out about this, but I have never heard about this. I just never watched this kind of stuff. And how both sides of the aisle are involved. Okay. So it's like in the FBI and the CIA, there's like people who infiltrated, this whole thing. So now I don't, what do I want to say next? What I was thinking of, I had to pause for a minute because I was like, okay, I just lost what I was talking about. So there's no doubt in my mind that somehow, it has to do with Trump, like with MAGA. I really do believe they were duped, which is totally fine because they thought they weren't being. That's mind control, right? And how now they can't come out with anything because it's so deep within the government, within Hollywood, within the news media. You should hear, if you decide to listen, when you hear Epstein's niece talk about that, her father is very deep in the whole situation in terms of drugging. Like she got drugged a lot for, the end result that people were paying for. Men. She didn't describe any women, but she said men. I keep losing my train of thought because I want to make sure. Sorry. I'm just piecing all these pieces together. Where was I taking it with him? Because ANYA, her name was ANYA WICK, who is Epstein's niece. So I think Epstein's brother is her father. Okay. But this thing is so spread, and I'm suspecting that a lot of people who grow up in the industries and in government have also been abused, have been mind controlled. Okay. Again, this is just what I'm piecing together. I know this sounds like crazy. Okay. But I am wanting to bring this, again, I'm going to tie it to a spirituality, to what we've been talking about. Okay. Because while we think that MAGA needs to wake up to the truth about Trump, which I totally agree, I think they are, because he's a part of that whole thing. But we are waking up to the truth that they knew, which is why they wanted Trump in there in the first place. A lot of people, I don't know. I shouldn't say a lot of people, I don't know. This one woman who I was listening to her podcast, She said she voted for Trump so that this whole issue would come out. Okay. So I think that's what I wanted to draw the connection. While we want them to wake up about Trump, we need to wake up, possibly, I do, about all of this stuff that's been going on. Okay. It even makes me wonder if the guy who allegedly, well, we don't have any proof otherwise, tried to boom to Trump in Pennsylvania, if he was on those MK Ultra drugs. So it doesn't mean that Trump's not a part of this. It's just that, you wonder. Because you pick up all these things that they're talking about during this interview that kind of ties everything together. Because they, even in one of the interviews, they were like, well, how come they haven't talked about it since then? Trump talks about everything. He talks about everything that people, actually, I watched an interview with Rosie O'Donnell in Ireland. She's really making the circuits there. And because she feels safe to do it there. And she even said that. She said, he has been talking about me for 20 years, Rosie O'Donnell, because she slighted him. But yet he has not said a word about that person who tried to do that to him. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So I have a few notes here. And this was one from one of the interviews that I listened to, but it's kind of interesting because they have been researching Epstein from 2019 to 2024. This gentleman, this other video that I watched, he said that included $55 billion, and the number of FBI agents that they used totals 192,000 man years of time. But yet not one arrest has been made, except for Epstein and Ghislaine. Okay? Not one arrest has been made. Like, what the F? Okay? Now, Wired magazine, this was another video I watched, Wired magazine was able to find out all of the owners of the cell phones that went to Epstein Island and trace them back to the United States. There's one up I'm in Wisconsin. There's one up in Door County. So, okay. If they were able to do that, Wire magazine, then why hasn't the FBI done it? That's what I was going to say. This is where I thank you for allowing me to bring my memory back to all the things, the connections here, because I watched several different interviews. ANYA WICK's father, who is Epstein's brother, I'm pretty sure, she never actually said which, maybe it's her mom's brother, I don't know. No, because his last name was Epstein too. Yeah. So ANYA WICK, okay, her father's, her somewhere in the bloodline, they work for the FBI. And I thought, oh, so the FBI's been infiltrated with this whole thing. Okay. So this thing goes far and wide. And again, the only reason I'm talking about it is because we can't continue on in our community, at least for me as a facilitator, I can't continue saying that people need to wake up about Trump and I'm asleep about this other thing. Does that make sense? So, and I'm not saying any of this is fact or right or anything, but what I am realizing is I don't have the whole truth. And then I'm going to get to whether or not why we need the truth, if we do need the truth. Okay, we're going to talk about that. And that's where the spirituality part's going to come in here. Okay. So the other things I wrote down that I found interesting is Trump did have a modeling agency. He got this modeling agency when he was bankrupt, and he got it from this other man who gave him money for this. And he was bankrupt, but they gave scholarships to these models, these girls, basically 12 to 17, you know. So why did Trump own a modeling agency? Just saying. Okay. And the other thing that I found interesting is Epstein had they've traced back $600 million in assets to him, but nobody knows how he made any money. So the thing is, though, we're so focused on Epstein, and that's what they want. That's what they want. So what I'm encouraging us to do, if you want this information, if you don't, again, the next thing I'm going to talk about is whether or not this is important for anybody to follow up on this stuff. Okay? So this conversation may be just enough for you to say, okay, I don't know the full picture about things, but I don't need to. I don't need to know the full picture by knowing the details, but I'm going to trust that I don't know everything, and I'm going to stop blaming other people for this mind control shit that's been going on. And I hate to say it, but these victims have planted seeds. Oh my gosh. Cathy O'Brien talked about Mackinac Island. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been to Mackinac Island several times. But, she grew up in Michigan, and apparently the town she grew up in, it's the whole thing. It's the police. It's it's all of them have been a part of this from when they were born, And she has a book, and I will list the book below. I'm definitely going to get it. Well, listen to the interview first. I just want to know enough. She actually said Mackinac Island was the original Epstein Island. And which is kind of interesting because you do just need a boat to get over there. Can't just drive over there, but that was the original Epstein Island. So, now ANYA WICK, her interview is very interesting. ANYA WICK's allegedly, she kept saying, because she doesn't have proof, she said, all I have is my memories, which is limited because of how much drugs they gave her. They would always give her drugs when men were doing what they wanted to do. Okay? And so then like blackout drugs, basically, And she said that she's been told by her father that her great-grandfather is Walt Disney. Okay? And her twin brother, she had a twin brother until she was 4 years old. He was then separated from her. The next time she saw him, he was on a show on Disney. So he had been moved to, probably sold into whatever. And you could research that whole thing. I researched her brother, and they do look alike. And it's a whole story. It's like really... at first I'm at acceptance, but at first I was like, oh my God, like I don't know. But okay, so let me just say one more thing. This was enough, I think, of an intro to the whole thing. You can decide how much you want to go into it. But as we discuss different topics going forward here, I'm not going to be blind to this whole thing. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to be like pretending like, Epstein is the problem. It's just so much bigger than that. And I do think this is all leading to the fifth dimension because this is what I find so interesting. So Cathy O'Brien, okay, she is one that is talking on one of these interviews. And she's the one that grew up in Michigan. She was actually brainwashed and mind controlled until age 30 when someone in the FBI actually pulled her and her daughter out of it. Okay. And so she was the one who said about Mackinac Island and everything. But the language, this is what's freaky about this. And that I thought, oh my gosh, I think we were meant to hear this. This is the language she used. Love wins. Higher vibration. That is a lower vibration. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I expected her, like she's not talking about religion at all. She's talking about the way she talks spirituality, the way we talk about spirituality. So I'm like, okay. I just felt more comfortable with that. She also talked about how we, the people, need to save we have everything we need. We don't need them to take care of us. We have everything we need. And that's exactly what a lot of the spiritual leaders who have been channeling have been saying. We have everything we need. We need to start taking care of ourselves. We need to start growing our own food, not you specifically, but our communities, so they can stop controlling it, so they can stop putting stuff in the food if that's what they're doing. Allegedly, listen to the interviews. You can start piecing some things together, okay? So that's the part I found fascinating. And another person, one of the other interviews, the podcaster, she said the only way we're going to get through this is through our spirituality. And I was like, okay, she didn't say religion. She said spirituality. And I thought, my God, we are closer than we all thought. Okay. They do want us separated. They do want us separated because actually one of the other, I think ANYA said in her interview, they want to keep us poor and tired, meaning you have to work your ass off to earn a living. You're too tired to pay attention to what's going on, which was me. I was too tired to pay attention to what's going on. I was too tired to have children. I didn't have children. I was working with children all day. I can't come home and have more children because I was exhausted, And I was exhausted because I was eating, Captain Crunch cereal, Of course I was exhausted. So, not my whole life, but a lot of my life. I used to go to my dad's and be like, my mom, my mom unfortunately had to give my dad rights to see us every other weekend. And I would love going to his house because that's when I would get sugar cereal. Anyways, when Cathy literally says, love wins. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying this. And she's talking about vibration. And this is a woman who was severely abused and controlled. And she said, I never even knew. Now, you guys might have known all this. I don't know. But I never knew about Bohemian Grove. What the hell? And a lot of this takes place. Oh, yeah, that's the other connection I made. So ANYA grew up in Boulder, Colorado. Well, guess who else lived in Boulder, Colorado? John Bonet, Ramsey. Yeah. Maybe they gave her a little too much of that MK Ultra one night. Never found out about that, have we? Yeah. Highly doubt somebody snuck into the house. Trust me, you'll make the connection when you oh my God. So, and I'm, this is again, not for conspiracy. This is just to say, okay, enough is enough. If we just keep running from it and not want to face it, then, and you do have to work on your feelings about it. You have to keep your vibration high while becoming aware. That's the key, right? So that being said, at the same time, I listened to Michael Sandler interview a spiritual person who channels, okay? I'm not going to say who it is, but I will list it below. The reason I'm not going to say who it is because this person triggers a lot of you, and I know that. I don't get triggered by this person channeling this person, okay? But a lot of you do. So you probably know who I'm talking about, but I will list it below in case anybody wants to listen to it, okay? But I don't get triggered by this because there are some things that are said that I'm like, yeah, okay, that doesn't resonate with me, or I wouldn't have said it that way. But sometimes I say stuff that, I don't really, or I'm in a bad mood or something, I end up saying something. But what this person said while the spirit was speaking, so what the spirit said, so this kind of brings us back, okay? So you get to make a choice. You get to make a choice because you are allowed to. You are a sovereign being. You get to make a choice. And it's okay if somebody else makes a different choice than you. Just like it's okay if I listen to this person on Michael Sandler and you don't. That doesn't mean I'm not going to judge you for not listening to that. Or if you choose not to listen to any of the survivors. I just think we need to stop listening to any news about Epstein. If we're going to learn anything, we need to listen to the survivors. Because if we listen to the survivors, one, it keeps them safe. Because the more people who know, then, and even ANYA talked about that. She said, the more people know that I'm talking about this, if something happens to me, just like it happened to, was it Victoria? I have to look up her name. The one who apparently unalived herself recently. Yeah, highly doubt it. So you get to make a choice. So if you do make a choice, that would be my suggestion. If you want to know anything more about what's going on in the world in relation to this mind control, MK Ultra, the drug that they're giving these kids, and I'm not going to should you, those who are, because I'm going to tell you what this other person was, the spiritual person was telling us, okay? So that's where the dichotomy is. So, but you get to make a choice. But if you do, then I would suggest that you listen to the survivors. That's where I was going with that. Just listen to the survivors, because they're the ones whose voice needs to be heard, and they're the voice that nobody's talking to. Like they even said the FBI never contacts them. What the hell? That's because it's very infiltrated. Okay, they don't want to. They're not interested. They know what happened to them. And they know what's continuing to happen. So that's my issue. It's one thing if it happened in the past, but it's still happening. It's still happening. Okay? And until we all wake up, we're no longer these, I get it now. It's not us against them. It just isn't. It isn't. Okay? And we have to keep in mind that a lot of these people in industries, okay, they were born into this. We have to keep that in mind. Okay? So even if they're adults now, and I get that, but she even said, if you listen to Cathy O'Brien, she said until she was 30, until she got out of it, she would do things that they wanted her to do because they were drugging her. So you have to keep that in mind when you think about other people in our leadership positions. Okay? I know it sounds nuts. But again, and then I was going to say Bohemian Grove, Cathy said the reason that guy pulled her out of there is because they were going to take her to Bohemian Grove and unalive her there in front of like the bigwigs, because she knew too much. But she got out of it before. Okay? And actually, there's a guy who actually takes you into Bohemian Grove. He snuck in there. Okay, I'm telling you, I went down a rabbit hole this weekend. But I'm kind of glad I did. I don't feel disgusted to know this, because I just think it's part of what we need to do. Because we can't raise our vibration as a society when this shit's going on. You know what I mean? And the reason I'm actually happy to know this is because now I know who to support why would I spend any of my time, unless I know for certain, like let's just say politically, why would I spend any more of my time talking about the political stuff or supporting I could talk about it, but supporting any of the political stuff unless I know for certain that they're not a part of this whole thing. Okay. So I'm actually glad to know about it, because I don't want to be in the darkness, but I also don't want to, it's the difference between conspiracy and conspiracy theories. And that's why I think we need to listen to the victims. Okay. Not the podcasters who are just talking about it. Not me, who's just talking about it right now. I'm just saying, if we're going to continue talking about Epstein, we need to stop listening to stuff about Epstein. Who cares what the government says? Who cares what the news says? Who cares what anybody on YouTube says about Epstein? Listen to the victims, because it gives them power. It helps us know more than we'll ever know any other way. It keeps them safe. We trust them and believe them, and it will bring more victims out. No, not victims. It'll bring more survivors out. Okay, ANYA actually talks about the difference between victims and survivors. She sees it as victims are unalive. Survivors are still here. So that was a term she was using for herself. That's why I'm using it. Okay. I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, so last thing I wanted to bring this back to was the spiritual person who was channeling. Okay, so this entity who was channeling said they were talking about stop trying to save the world or others. Okay, so this is coming back to ourselves, right? Stop trying to save the world or others. That's why we're exhausted. They don't need saving. They need acceptance, and they need to be in the light. So now that I'm just saying that, I'm reading my notes in front of me. That's what I'm doing by listening to the survivors. I'm accepting them, and I'm helping them bring themselves to the light. And it's funny because that's exactly what this being had just said, that I listened to his interview this weekend. Okay? He said, stop worrying about things. Be present in your own life. Be present in your own life. Because clearly, like, I'm not going to sit and worry now about the children that it's happening to right now. Okay? They were born into this because they will probably help change it. We have to trust and accept that. It sucks, but just like Cathy O'Brien and ANYA and others who are coming to the forefront now, they were born into this because their spirit was like, okay, I'm going to come in because I know how hard it is to speak about this, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to come forward and I'm going to speak about it because that's the only way everybody, the people, are going to know the truth. Okay? Okay, so when we have an opinion one way on one thing or another, the way someone else is living or experiencing, we add to it and make it more complicated. That's what this entity said. I thought that's brilliant. Okay, that's to help us keep ourselves in check. When we're dealing with this very, very deep, dark energy of things that are happening, we don't want to add to it and make it more complicated because of our energy by bringing our vibration down. So when only listen to these things, I think listening to the survivors is way more easier for me. It's just easier for me because I'm just so proud of them. But if you're not in a place, like I'm at a pretty high vibrational place right now, if you are not, then don't go there right now. Because what this entity was saying is you will make it more complicated because you will go into, your energy won't be able to deal with it. Does that make sense? Okay. He did say even praying for something different to happen, that it's not up to you. Be careful with your prayers. We've talked about that on this channel, being careful with our prayers, where I will say, only if it's in their highest and best. Okay, I know that some people don't like it when I say highest and best for all. Okay, highest and best. Okay, so if you're going to pray, just pray. I just think it's. He made it sound like, well, it's just be careful. We don't want to make things more complicated. He says it's not for you to decide what's best for them when you're praying for someone else. It's not up to you to decide what's best for them. Okay? And here's an example. So my mother-in-law is really having a hard time right now. And the people around her are having a very hard time right now because she's at end. She's ready to transition. But she's deteriorating, but not transitioning. And I have found myself saying, okay, could you please just, you can go, you can release yourself, you can go. But I come back to, she will go when she is damn ready to go. And she will go. There is a reason why we're all having this experience with her. and accepting that experience rather than praying for it to end, accepting the experience. Now, do I want her to be comfortable? 1,000%. So I pray for her to be as comfortable as possible because I don't want her to be in pain, you know? So that's just an example of me trying to pray for her to go quickly so people aren't in pain about this. But who am I to decide what's best for her children, you know, around her? So it's just an example. So he did say, simply be here as your own master and just enjoy your life. Okay? So because this is such a heavy topic, I'm really glad that I took notes on this other topic. This is really what I was going to talk about today, and then just go into some messages from Spirit. But I felt very called after listening to the survivors to come here, especially because we've done sessions on just Epstein. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with him. He was a person, and he was a pawn in the whole thing. They're trying to get him to just take the fall so that the subject is ended. But it's not ended. It's not going to end because we want to lift up the survivors' voices and allow them to speak so that this thing does end. It's the only way it's going to end, you know, as we keep our vibrations high. So there's a huge connection with all of this. And I hope I have helped you make the connection, because I want to be as responsible with this as I can, but I'm only human. I'm one person with many different perspectives because of how I was raised. So please take it however is best for you. Do whatever is best for you. We each get to choose because you get to choose, and I'm not judging you. I don't want anybody here judging each other. If you're going to leave a nasty comment and judge, just walk away, because we're not doing that here. This is about us all trying to find an understanding for ourselves, each of us, and say something in the comments that would support everybody finding where love wins. Let's get to this point. This is how love wins. This is how we raise our vibrations, not just by praying. This is how we do it. So tomorrow I might have the same, I don't know, I just feel very called to talk about this today. Tomorrow will be regular programming because it is interesting, the different topics. But it'll be interesting to see when we do different topics, especially with the SGs. I'll have a totally different perspective. So let me know what you think. And I love you guys so much. And let's just keep raising our vibrations together. Do what you can, but be your own master and enjoy your life. That's the important thing. Okay? Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.